Hi, everyone. So glad that you could join us today on Faith in an Ever Changing World Encouragement and Hope. I'm Janet Harley, your host, and I have with me Josh Menning. Josh is an award winning producer and director. Josh, it's such a pleasure to have you with me today. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Janet. Thank you.
Absolutely. And when we come back, right after our brief intro, we'll learn more about Josh. So stay with us. And welcome back. Josh, if you will, please share with us what has God given you to do in this season and how is faith helping you do it?
Sure. Yeah, there seems to be a lot that's been kind of uh, coming at me in this world of filmmaking. You know, uh, in the past couple, let's say 5 years, as far as the films go, I've had somewhat of a solid plan as far as distribution goes. And lately, that seems to be shaken up a little bit. And
Uh-huh.
I feel that, we're never meant to stay in our comfort zone. So
No,
I feel that, especially in this industry, it's
yes,
very hard to stay in your comfort zone, first off.
absolutely.
And so I feel that God is pulling me into another direction. When it comes to films. And I think it may be to have a bigger impact. So what he's kind of been laying on me is, and I went to a the Content Media Film Conference at
Mhm,
the end of September, and there were a
mhm,
lot of things and a lot of questions I had going into that, especially since
mhm.
the world of distribution, it's always changing. Um, so there were some questions that I had going into it, and seeing, if I'm, heading in the right direction, or what else should I be looking at. And
Right.
so a lot of the questions I started to find were basically creating a film, and I kind of attribute this to Nathan Blair, is making a film with the end in mind. And I've with filming, I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind, but
Mhm.
I guess I never really took the action steps.
Right.
And and as a Christian, as a filmmaker, I mean, we definitely have the end goal in mind. But
Yes.
with the ministry, with the missions that we're trying to do, with the message that we want to get out there, we need to kind of look at the end of what we want that message, who we want it to be directed to. So I feel that God is starting to provide me with some information that I was seeking, as far as
Good.
marketing goes,
Mhm.
defining my audience, and not necessarily relying on one certain distribution avenue, but to see how that translates into multiple platforms. As we all know, there's
Yeah,
hundreds and hundreds of distribution platforms, but how does
absolutely.
that make sense for an independent filmmaker that's not relying on a studio? And you know, in this business, it's a filmmaking business. You could be creating a film to just put the message, put the words out there, but at the end of the day, there also has to be some sort of income that's going to be driving this, and also to be the best steward of the resources that we're giving.
Mhm.
So, what I've been trying to navigate again is the past 5 years, I've had this nice comfy zone as far as the films go, and it's been great. But I feel that I'm being propelled in another direction and to gain a lot more knowledge than I had before.
Mhm.
And anybody that's in the filmmaking business know that, I mean, you're never going to know everything.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Even with reading the Bible, you're always going to be learning. So, and I think if I want to not be stagnant, if I want to keep going forward, to keep being
Mm.
able to um, share with the world what God's telling me, and putting out the news that he wants people to hear, and really narrowing down to that specific audience who I need to speak to. Um, and I think that's really where I'm being led. And the more and more I look into it, the more and more information is coming, the more and more understanding I'm starting to get, to
Oh,
where in the past I felt like, I had a little bit of knowledge and things were working out, and the myths that you make a great film, has great stories, some cast members, then it'll be successful, which definitely holds true to some regard. But I think there's a whole another level of understanding to make sure that the message that you want to put out there is actually reaching the audience, both what you're
mhm,
defining as far as the business side of things, but
mhm.
then also in the ministry side of things, that are totally going to appeal to them and to hit them right where they are, so that they're
Right.
receiving it. Um, so then on the back end, again, there is the financial thing to it, but if you're hitting them where they need to hit it, and you're being a good steward of what God has blessed you with and
Mm.
the message, then I think it becomes a very successful thing.
Yeah, and I think you hit on the key there, being a good steward, yeah, of what God has given you. Well, God has certainly filled your plate, and he keeps us working, doesn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because His work never stops. Absolutely. Josh, thank you so much for joining me today, and for sharing with us about in this season what God has you doing. And we'll do a catch up with you maybe later on in the year. After some of these things, you've learned marketing and about distribution. That is so important. And talking with others, producers and actors and actresses as well. Would like to put up some information about you so that if people want to know more about you or to connect with you, menningfilms.com. Thanks again, Josh, for being with me. And thank you all for watching. I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube and follow me on Spotify. And you can watch other episodes of Faith in an Ever Changing World on Abundant TV Network. Thanks again for joining me. Look up, friends, where our help comes from. Bye. God bless.